Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Stucky's Travels. Today we're going to take you to Tanzania.
We'll be breaking this episode up into two parts, with part one mostly focusing on safari, and part two is focusing a little more on the people, culture, and places. So you're going to need your hepatitis A, B, typhoid, probably yellow fever. Make sure you're updated on like polio, tetanus, MMR, all of those. You're also going to need your passport with a visa. So it's a $100 per person visa for Tanzania. They rely heavily on tourism money because of their amazing national parks and your pictures on your visa and everything. So you get that ahead of time and you're set.
So here's Tanzania. We got there by going through the border crossing at Kenya.
Yep. And it's a very large country. It's about 1.5 times bigger than Texas. So the roads are a lot slower than they are here in the U.S. When you look at a distance, it's going to take you probably almost twice as long as you expect to get there.
Yeah, speed limits are low and they have lots of safety stop checks.
So this is our route that we took through part of Tanzania. We did our border crossing there at the top, and then we moved west into the Ngorongoro crater area and the Serengeti National Park. Then we backtracked to Arusha, then traveled past Mount Kilimanjaro, making our way to Dar es Salaam, the island of Zanzibar, and then on the next episode we'll continue south.
So here you can see their money, their bills, very large bills. The exchange rate is fairly high.
The exchange rate when we were there was $1 was 1,550 Tanzanian shillings. Now the exchange rate is $1 is about 2,300 shillings. So like the bill with the lion on it is only about $1. But really cool currency with the animals and wildlife. And then, as we mentioned in a Kenya episode, this is the truck that we traveled on when we were touring East Africa.
Yep. And you can feel really rich because $5 bill is 10,000, actually a little more.
So lots of villages that we passed, made out of various materials depending on what was in the area. So a lot of mud and grass used, thatch roofs, and so on.
So here's an open street market with lots and lots of goods for sale.
You can see it was a local Maasai market. They are known for their brightly colored clothing.
And we got a little bit of fruit, some red bananas.
Yep, this is in the town of called Mutu Wambu. We stayed in a campground when we were there, and it had a nice cement gate all the way around it, and mostly tourists were inside camping. This is where we kind of got ready to enter the Ngorongoro crater area.
And so here's the Ngorongoro crater. It is one of the largest craters in the world.
It's the largest one that's unflooded and unbroken. It's 20 kilometers across, 600 meters deep, and that encompasses 300 square kilometers. That 600 meters deep, you're actually going up one side before you drive down in. So it took us almost an hour from the gate just to go up one side and down the other.
So here on the left, we find not a hawk or an eagle, but actually a buzzard.
It's an auger buzzard, yeah. So it doesn't look like it's a bird of prey, or it looks like a bird of prey, but it's a type of buzzard, which is really interesting. On the right is the Kori bustard. It is the largest flying bird. It can weigh as much as 18 kilograms. So you don't really have anything for size there, but its body is pretty heavy for considering it can fly.
That's about 40 pounds. So think about a 40-pound little kid trying to fly. Here we have a couple of ostriches, the female on the left and the male on the right.
Some baboons. You can see that they're picking bugs. The one's picking insects off of the other one.
Here's a water buffalo or a Cape buffalo, which is one of the...
Yeah, it's called part of the Big Five. So every safari person's hopes are to see all five species that are considered part of the Big Five, and this is one of them.
Here's a nice little hyena. We saw them a lot, and luckily it didn't pose much danger to us, but I wouldn't try and fight one. They're pretty strong.
Flamingos. The lake in the Ngorongoro crater was filled with flamingos. From a distance, it just looked like a pink water.
This gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the flamingos with zebra and wildebeest.
The elephants within the crater have very large tusks. So here you can see an elephant eating some grass.
And here you can see the hyenas just walking along the zebras, and the hyenas will leave them alone. They really don't hunt much on their own.
This is a jackal, pretty small, like smaller than a coyote here in the U.S. Probably half the size of a coyote, if that.
And here's some Maasai huts from up above.
These are giraffes. So there are no giraffes inside the crater. So these were things that we saw once we were outside the crater. The one on the right is called a Maasai giraffe, and you can find it and know that it's that type because of its weird shaped spots.
And this one is a very brightly colored lizard.
It's also sometimes known as the Spider-Man agama, and because of its kind of red and blue coloration. So we've left the crater and we're now entering the Serengeti. That was the first picture that we took in the Serengeti, was the lizard.
Yep, and here's the ever popular acacia tree, which is full of thorns, but giraffes love eating them.
Yeah, their tongues actually have some sort of antiseptic property to them, which allows them to be unfazed by eating the foliage off the trees. So now we're in Serengeti National Park. We camped in a tent, a canvas tent within the national park. And in the morning when we woke up, these 24 elephants in total with this group were not very far outside of camp at all. So pretty cool thing to see.
And we were lucky enough to see a mama cheetah with 3 baby cubs, triplets.
Right. You might wonder why the pictures are sort of jumping around, but this is in the order that we saw them during our game drives to just show you how, 1 minute you might be seeing a cheetah, the next minute a lion, the next minute zebras and wildebeest. So they're all kind of mixed up, but it's in the order that we were seeing them throughout the day. More elephants. Yep. So fun to watch the elephants. The little babies were quite hilarious.
Yeah, and you can see just the difference in size and how easy it was to tell kind of the middle-aged ones compared to the old ones.
These are Grant's gazelle. We saw lots of different types of gazelle, impalas, a lot of different types of deer in general.
And here's the zebra. Zebras supposedly have 72 stripes, even though they're all unique. Supposedly.
This is a plover. It's called the blacksmith plover.
Lots of zebras.
There were thousands and thousands of wildebeest and zebras. It was part of the Great Migration. They're constantly moving around this part of the world, and really just hundreds, as far as your eye could see. So this is a wildebeest just sort of hanging out and relaxing.
This is a crowned crane.
Yep. On the right, we have a sand grouse, really plump, low-slung bird.
And on the left, we have a giraffe. There are a bunch of different types of giraffes, like Michelle had mentioned. You can see the neck is a little bit thicker on this one compared to some that have really thin necks. And they're all kind of have their own unique traits.
More ostriches.
Yep, with a gazelle right in the middle. Hard to see.
I like this picture because it just shows how vast the Serengeti is. You can see so far off into the distance and not see anything else around. But this giraffe was moving from one location to the next, going to find his next acacia tree.
So again, a small view of just the number of animals that we were able to see at one time.
More acacia trees. This is morning. This is a sunrise game drive. So we're getting up and getting out about 6 o'clock.
And we were lucky enough to see a leopard kind of sleeping away in a tree.
A leopard is one of the big 5 as well, so another check mark. And then it sort of realized that there was a Jeep under it, so it got a little bit more attentive, and we were able to get several really cool shots of it. This is called the saddle-billed stork. You can't see its legs in this picture, but it actually has kind of really long, spindly legs.
Nice muddy hippo. Looks like our dog when he rolls around in the mud.
This was again outside of camp, so the next morning when we got up, elephants right there to greet us as we started our game drive.
Yep.
And this baby on the left was probably less than 10 feet from our Jeep, so maybe even closer. Really cool on how close they would get. One of the adults sort of did a mock stampede where it started to act like it was gonna come at us, but it was just a joke, luckily.
Yep. And here you can see more hippos.
This one is a male impala. So the impalas, this impala could be the father to between 50 and 100 mothers' baby impalas, and they sort of hang out. The women hang out together, and then there's these bachelor groups that are the guys that hang out together.
Here we have some green pigeons.
On the right, we have a magpie, and on the left, we weren't really ever able to identify this. I labeled it as really ugly brown bird.
And then lots of lions all over the place with so many wildebeest and zebra. Lions were all over.
So this lion in particular, what led to what became my favorite photo of the whole trip. This lion chased after a wildebeest, was unsuccessful. Our guide said that it's pretty common for them to just practice. You know, this female probably had no intention of actually trying to take down a wildebeest, but it's always good practice to run after them and see, like, okay, if she wanted it, could she have gotten it? She was working by herself. They will work together if they're really trying, if they're really hungry. So after she practiced trying to catch a wildebeest, she climbed up into a tree, and I was able to get this morning silhouette picture. I like this picture so well that we actually, if you look above our heads, you can see that we turned it into a canvas print, and it's in our living room.
And then we have the rock hyrax.
So these are the same types of rocks that lions really like to hang out on. It gives them a really good vantage point. So in some of the other lion pictures that you'll see them sort of sitting up on these rocks. Another Cape buffalo, but just looking straight on at us this time, so you can really see their unique horns.
And then here we have a couple of lovebirds.
This is the eastern yellow-billed hornbill. This one's looking straight towards us, but if you Google a picture of this from the side, its bill really is kind of shaped like a horn.
And here we have a dwarf mongoose. It's really tiny. So
cute little guy. Again, so lucky to be able to see this mother cheetah with triplets. Oftentimes, 3 babies don't make it to this age. We were fortunate enough to have another guide from a different group that had found these. From what we were told, there was a group that was looking for 5 days to try to find these triplets, and we saw them on 2 or 3 different times.
So here they're all feeding off Mom. And Mom had a really nice vantage point on top of a hill that overlooked a really large area.
On the left is the African fishing eagle.
And then on the right, a nice sepia-colored picture with the elephant.
So sitting on the rocks, like I said before, we got the lion sitting up. Good vantage point for wildebeests and zebras.
And they slept a lot.
So in this case, the people got way too close. There's certain routes you're supposed to stay on, but oftentimes if people on the Jeep are trying to bribe the driver to get closer, they'll think that they're going to get a bigger tip. And so I believe that this Jeep got reported for going off-road and getting close to this cheetah, but you can see how close the people are.
Yeah, and if you look close, you'll see the triplets underneath her, kind of blending in.
And this is a Marshall eagle. Really, really big, gigantic, huge, strong legs with talons. So just so many amazing pieces of wildlife to see. You know, you really can't describe it, I guess, unless you're just there. A little bit expensive to go to the Ngorongoro crater in Serengeti. You have to have a guide. You're forced to pick one of their guides. It's $50 a day entry fee. But if it's on your bucket list as a lifelong dream, then go for it.
Yep. All right. We'll see you next time.